Join discord.gg/flat earth to join in the conversation about our Earth. Remember to get VC verified.
Enemy spotted.
Sage.
Yes.
So you have the answer of the
we
universe.
had a
42.
we had a little chat before in the VC check-in, and Sage believes that he lives on a globe. So, do you have
Welcome,
any
Sage.
questions about Flat Earth, Sage, or does anyone have any questions towards Sage?
I don't think I have any questions. I'm just enjoying the conversation and listening to
Yeah.
people.
You're not interested why people believe the Earth is flat, or know the Earth is flat?
I would say I'm interested. That's probably why I'm here, but I'm not. So far, I haven't seen any real compelling arguments.
Oh, that's just because we've been kind of talking amongst ourselves when we talk about other subjects when there's no kind of globers in here. So,
Right on.
What's your best evidence that you live on a ball?
Probably gravity.
Okay, so
And
do you
the
know if there's a
observable.
scientific?
I was just gonna say,
experiment?
and the
go
observable
ahead.
universe, like other planets, and makes sense that we would be on a similar planet as to those around us. Constellations
Okay,
is another really good one.
yeah, what do they prove about the surface of the Earth?
Well, if we were on a flat Earth, or a flat surface rather, the constellations, they wouldn't look the way they do when you move to different locations throughout the surface of whatever it is we're on.
Yeah, I
So
think I think you're confusing two kind of ideas. Now, there's one, the
I don't think I
heliocentric
am.
version is, well, there's an outer space, and we're a planet that resides in the outer space, and then the stars are stars that are billions of light years away or billions of miles away, and they're huge gas balls. We don't actually, we're not a flat disk floating in space or the vacuum of space.
Okay, so where are we if not in space?
Don't know, man, but the whole place measures flat and level.
So what's the sun?
Don't know. Do you know?
I think it's a giant ball of burning shit.
Yeah. So you used the word think there, didn't you?
I mean, to the best of my knowledge, that's what it is. It produces heat and light and
Well, it's not really your
radiation.
knowledge, though, is it? It's knowledge that you've gained by someone telling you that it's a big ball of burning gas in the vacuum of space.
Not
That's not
necessarily.
anything that you've done to confirm it, yeah?
Well, I mean, I do have a telescope. I can make observations of my own.
You watch
And
the sun through a telescope?
not directly, no. But I can watch parts of what gets emitted from it without harming my eyes.
Yeah. So, how does this confirm whether you live on a? Even if you were saying the sun is a ball of gas, would this relate to the surface of the Earth? Could you confirm that the surface of the Earth is curved by looking at the sun?
Could I confirm that the Earth is? Wait, say that one more time.
Could you confirm the Earth is a ball, a curved surface, by looking at the stars or the sun?
I think through observing them, yes, you certainly could.
How would that work?
Well, I mean, you can track it, you can measure it.
Yeah, but you're just tracking things moving across the sky, yeah?
Yes and no. I mean, so those things moving across the sky, they rotate, right? And
How do you know that?
well, through observation. I mean, if we look at Jupiter, for example, you can see
So
rotations taking place on Jupiter.
because of dots going past it.
No, because of its surface. You can see how its
Well, when
surface
you look through a
changes and
telescope, you
rotates.
see in 2D. You don't see in 3D. There's no depth in one
Right.
lens.
Right,
Yeah.
but what I'm saying is if you take, let's say you take 50 different images of those 2D objects, right? And you see that
Yeah.
they're transitioning and they're transitioning in a certain direction and it's
What are
consistent.
the dots?
Or whatever it is that you're looking at on the surface of Jupiter. Let's look at its red spot, right? That's what it's known for. You can track that and see, okay, it's moving around this
Is that
thing.
the storm moving or the planet rotating?
Well, it could be both, right? I mean, something's going in a circular fashion around this thing.
You just said you can see it rotating by the storm moving. So if the storm moves, then it's not rotating. Like, how do you confirm that all this stuff that you're saying is true?
Well, and you can do the same thing with the moon, right? I mean, you can do it with the moon, you can do it with any of the other planets. I mean, I don't see why that's
Yeah, but what's that got to do with the surface of the Earth? So if you're saying things in the sky look circular, I can't confirm they're spherical, but they look circular. That tells me that the surface that I'm standing on is spherical.
Okay, so
Yeah.
no, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that,
Well, it kind of is, but yeah. Go
well,
ahead.
no. I mean, so with all due respect, I'll say what I'm saying,
Yeah,
and you
that's
can
fine.
say what you're saying.
Yeah, no worries.
So what I'm saying is that through my observations, I can tell the objects in the sky, whatever we're calling it, are spherical in nature and not just circular, based on
Okay.
the 2D images that I'm seeing.
Based on 2D images, you're seeing spheres. That makes no sense.
Well,
do you know
wait,
that?
1 second. You didn't let me finish.
Wait. Well, let
Okay,
me
if we're gonna
finish.
cut people off,
And
sure.
yeah, I'm gonna fucking cut you off. You damn Skippy, I am. You're looking out into fairy tale space, the vacuum of space. You're in a second law of thermodynamics violation. Therefore, any claims that you make about what's out there in your paradigm is heretofore void. No pun intended. Get it?
No.
Yeah, you're in a second law of thermodynamics violation out there with your telescope. It's not natural science either. What's your experiment?
What are you talking about?
Your claim
How
is
am I violating anything?
nonsensical. Your claim is nonsensical.
Well,
you can't appeal to it because it's in the second law of thermodynamics violation.
So before we get into my violation, let's talk about yours.
Well, your sister doesn't seem to mind. Clown. What's your scientific evidence for your spheretard?
Can we be respectful, or
Yeah, I'm respecting you. What is your scientific evidence for your spheretard? Second time.
so you just keep muting me, or
Third time, I'm not going to ask you again. What is your scientific evidence for your spheretard?
I'm not familiar with that term.
Scientific evidence? You're not familiar with that?
No, the sphere. What did you say it was?
You know what
Spheretard.
Earth sphere, an Earth sphere. You don't know. You never heard of sphere Earth.
Oh, I have. Yeah, I didn't. I
Okay, that's what he's
misheard
talking
him.
about.
Sorry.
That's what. Hey, that's what he's fucking talking about. Just listen up. Shut your fucking pie hole and listen.
Wow.
What is your scientific evidence for your globe? How about that? Does that help you out a little bit?
Sure. Yeah, and I was trying to describe that. And
Oh,
then
you were. You are a pretender clown numpty dipshit. The first words out of your mouth should have been, no. That's a malformed question because you can't science a sphere. The reason being is the scientific method only adjudicates natural cause and effect relationships. It has nothing to do with shapes. So therefore, you are a pretender clown. How about that?
And I don't understand the reasoning with what you just said.
Yeah, you wouldn't because you're a dumbass.
What? Dude. Okay. I'm going to ask you this question very simply, friend. You can answer yes or no. What is the cause of shape? Remember, the only two options are yes or no. So it's an unanswerable question because it's incoherent, correct? Obviously.
He said the
Oh,
only
I-
options are
I
yes
was
or no.
muted at the time, so I couldn't respond.
Please.
No, you couldn't respond because there's no answer.
Ask him again.
Okay. Answer yes or no. What is the cause of shape?
Yes or no?
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
So if you could pay attention to that riddle, why couldn't you pay attention to a cause and effect relationship doesn't adjudicate what shape something is?
Well, I can. I just don't appreciate being directly offended when I'm.
Oh, it can. So a cause and effect relationship can be attributed to a shape. Please go on, Mr. Non Sequitur. You don't
What would
know
you
what
like to me? No. What would you like me to go on about?
You
Oh.
don't know what natural nothing. You've already
Oh my
exposed
goodness.
yourself. Mae West is friggin' blushing in the corner.
Well, hold on. Well, hold on. Since he's open, I'd like you to come over and fluff my pillow. Right? Then you can massage my back a little bit.
You don't know what
Yeah,
natural science is, dude.
So
You.
yeah, I understand you're talking to me.
Yeah. You. Yeah, you don't know what natural science is. You would fail Intro to Natural Science, 5th grade.
Well, it's a shame I didn't.
Well, you would have. Your parents must have paid off the teachers because that is the dumbest shit I've ever heard.
I was an orphan.
Well, that's okay. Well, your guardians, they must have paid them off.
I didn't have any, man. I was in an
Yeah.
orphanage.
You don't know what natural science is, do you?
I do.
No, you don't.
Um,
You just exposed yourself, sunshine. Everyone heard it.
So I come in here and I spoke
We don't
to
really care about how you come in here, your favorite color. We don't care about that shit. You just exposed yourself as a pretender clown numpty dipshit by not saying, I'm sorry, sir. That is a malformed question. You can't infer, test on a shape in natural science. That's what you should have said.
Why can't you?
Well, I can't because cause and effect relationships are a category error to what is questions.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah, you nailed it.
Yes, listen, we're tacitly aware that this does not make sense to you.
Well, I mean, I don't understand why you can't do what he was saying.
Oh my
Okay,
God!
well
So
then-
you're not only compromised with your science acumen, you're retarded.
Don't get me wrong, friend. You could totally vindicate yourself by disproving Mr. Quantum Eraser's statements by simply explaining a cause and effect chain of events, right? That is the cause of sphere.
So I was in the process of doing that before I was cut off.
It's fucking moronic. It's trying to go ahead and explain married bachelors. Go on, floor is yours. Explain married bachelors because that's what you just said, essentially. Go ahead.
I don't want to explain anything about married bachelors. I don't know what
Same
you're
fucking
talking.
thing.
Look,
You're in a paradox. It's a category error, son.
Am I the only one who thinks that I've tried to be respectful and I'm
Shut
being
the
met with disrespect?
fuck up. Your little Nancy fag routine doesn't surf here, son.
Yeah,
You know
keep
how
in
long
mind.
we've- You know how long
let me
we've been dealing with Nancy fags? About
Yeah,
8
yeah.
years. Your appeals are falling on deaf ears.
Yeah, keep in mind, friend, you're telling us that you can apply the scientific method to a shape.
I'm not trying to tell you guys you're wrong.
Well, then what are you trying to do?
I
What are you
wasn't
trying to do?
I wasn't trying to come in here and upset anybody. I genuinely was
upset.
just trying to see what you guys were talking about and
We're not
understand.
upset. We're not
Okay,
upset.
Well,
Why are you
well,
appealing to complete strangers' emotions? Go ahead on with
Oh,
your scientific evidence for a sphere. We want to see what's the first step in the scientific method. Go ahead and Google it real quick. You'll probably get the wrong fucking answer, by the way.
you want me to answer you the question of what's the first step in the scientific method?
Yeah, that's what I did. So you fucking delayed long enough and stalled. What is it?
I'm not looking it up. I don't
Yeah.
intend to answer your question either.
All right, then you don't get to fucking speak anymore. Fuck off. How about that? Next.
Oh man, I was going to tell him what we're all about after I finish this donut.
Huey.
Yes.
Yeah, you mentioned comments that I made in older videos of yours or FED crews.
No, I was looking at another video you were on there. It was from, I don't know, about a year ago.
Yeah. I'll apologize for those comments.
Okay.
I was coming from a place of being underinformed, and I was still pretty new, and I got fired up. And in hindsight, I was wrong to make those comments, so I'll apologize for those.
All right. Fair enough.
Okay.
Weren't we just beefing like 3 hours ago?
What?
Weren't we beefing 3 hours ago?
I don't know. Is that a euphemism?
Not you.
Is that like when you invite the boys over and say, "Don't tell anyone"?
No.
Okay.
This is what Chocolate was talking about.
What? What? Wait a minute.
Nah,
Wait a
yeah.
minute. Wait a minute,
Yeah,
dude.
Joke.
Wait a minute. Did Chocolate send you any of our DMs? I told him not to send them to anybody.
Oh,
Yeah. So before I came out from my donut eating excursion, I heard that guy talking about objects up in the sky may or may not be spheres, and then I also heard him say I was trying to demonstrate how to scientifically arrive at the Earth as a globe, and I was thinking to myself, okay, so scientific method, object over there is sphere, therefore Earth is sphere. So the cause of the Earth being a sphere is an object over there being a sphere. So one object is a sphere, therefore another object is a sphere. Wow. Slow clap.
Has nothing to do with kindness, Salaman. He came in with a claim, right? If he wanted to sit here and listen, that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. But then he said something to the effect that he hasn't seen any evidence for flat. I heard that. I was away from my mic. I didn't get back quick enough to give him that. And then he started claiming globe proof. That's not somebody listening attentive. And then he came out with a clusterfuck. Why do we even have to explain this to you? You were here. You heard him. You want me to be nice? Do you want me to be polite when he's pissing down my back and telling me it's raining? Is that what you want me to do? Come off mute. We've had this discussion before some years ago. Do we need to establish it again?
Nah, look who said it, man. I didn't say that.
I'm sorry. Did I falsely indict you?
Yeah.
My apologies.
Man, we're on the
Oh,
apology
so
train tonight.
I'm sorry.
So,
It was Incre. Sorry, Salesman. Like I said, I'm sorry. That wasn't you. Incre, come off mute.
What's up?
You understand what I just said?
No, I didn't hear it. What'd you say?
Yeah. So the reason why he got brutalized is that he wasn't just coming in here to listen, right? He had said he's seen no claims, substantial ones, I'm paraphrasing, for a flat earth. I was away from my mic. I couldn't get back to it in time. And then he started giving globe, quote unquote, globe proofs. That's not somebody that's just a newbie here to listen to reasoned arguments. So I handed him his ass. What's the problem?
Well, I heard some of his globe proofs, and they didn't seem very experienced or well argued, personally.
Sure. Yep.
So I just felt like it merited a calmer discussion.
It was a calm discussion.
Well, maybe that's subjective.
so if he didn't know the material, then why was he supporting it so adamantly?
Because we're all taught it, man. Some people just argue it. I didn't. I was inquisitive, but I did think it was ridiculous. Flat Earth, like.
Yeah, it's a little bit different than what this guy was doing, though. What you're talking about, it's cats and dogs.
All day. We see it all
He was
day.
just in denial. They all do this. They all grasp at straws. He was looking at the sky and saying, "Oh, I see 2D sphere or circles. Therefore, I'm standing on a sphere." It's completely incoherent. He just doesn't realize it because he's grasping at straws. He wants his belief to be true.
Yeah. And the burning gases in a vacuum, have good luck with that. What a retard.
Fair enough. Well, fair enough, but I'll answer his question since he asked. What is it all about? It's all about this. The Earth is allegedly covered in water of 70% of the known territory. Water is flat and level. It's an axiom of life. So if 70% of the territory is flat and level, and the contingent necessity of a sphere is 360-degree curvature, the Earth cannot possibly be a sphere. I rest my case. Ad infinitum into the future and ex ante into the past.
Oh, that Latin makes me hot.
Yeah, now I'd like to hear if he has any valid counter-arguments, because his incoherent fallacies are not valid arguments.
You want me to take him off mute?
Yeah, I want to hear him respond to AI.
Only if he promises not to address any concern trolling about how he was treated. If he wants to talk about the argument, go for it.
All right, there you go, AI. He's all yours.
All right, so
What's
the
the
contingent
question?
necessity, the question is this. The Earth is covered in 70% water. Water being level and flat is an axiom throughout human history. If 70% of the territory is flat and level, and the sphere requires 360-degree curvature as a contingent necessity, then the Earth cannot possibly be a sphere. What say you?
I don't see how those statements. I don't see how those statements are
Take him out.
true. What you said.
Kick him out.
Well, what statement?
Well, that a spherical object can't hold water or can't have water on its surface.
Get out. Get out.
You didn't say that.
That-
You need to listen better.
Get out.
If you have a live stream, you can play it back on repeat if you want.
He's on mushrooms.
For real?
It sounds like it.
Oh. You trying to get me busted again for picking on the mentally impaired? All right, no rebuttal. The proposition stands as true. Case closed.
Yes, water is flat and level, ladies and gentlemen. Also, Earth is stationary. That means not moving and can't possibly be existing in a vacuum of an infinite and expanding vacuum. But what?
Yeah, so
A vacuum of a vacuum? You said a vacuum
Okay,
of
so-
a vacuum.
fair, but there's only one rebuttal. There's only one rebuttal that meets the task of defeating the axiomatic human experience throughout antiquity that water's flat and level, and that is demonstrable surface curvature.
Yeah.
That is the only rebuttal. What happens in the sky, whether dinosaurs had big or small wieners, doesn't matter.
I thought you were gonna promote your sect for a second.
Hey, bro, this is a long game, okay? Sometimes it takes little psychological effects, you know what I'm saying?
This is a family show.
Yo, man, if you're the leader, I'm gonna drink the Kool-Aid, whatever the Baptism is. I'm with you.
Oh, he's hilarious. So, is that vagabond? Hey, that's the first time I laughed all freaking week, man.
Good,
I'm here
see?
for bringing the comedy back to the channel, man.
Right. So let's be clear. There's an open table waiting for demonstrable Earth curvature to be placed on it. Who's got some?
But is the table
well,
flat? Because the ball is gonna just fall off if it's not flat.
That's right. Well, yeah, it's like Exhibit A. It's just sitting there empty, Your Honor. What do we do about that?
I need a concave
not-
table so it doesn't fall.
It's
Since
not.
Sage is, sorry.
sorry.
It actually
No,
has to
you
be
go ahead.
level.
Since
table
Sage
has
is
to
still
be-
here,
The table has to be level and flat.
since Sage is still here, how about we go over his so-called proofs? Sage, do you understand that if you see someone driving in a Ferrari, that does not mean that you're in a Ferrari?
Yeah. It's painful, dude. Your argument is object over there is sphere, therefore the object I'm standing on is sphere. That is not sound reasoning in any way, shape, or form. Okay, you have a lot of philosophical assumptions built into that before you can even come to even close to a conclusion. And you have to prove all of those assumptions true first. That's why I just cut through all that nonsense and just asked you for the surface curvature of the object in question, because that's the contingent necessity. What objects are doing over there is not contingently necessary to the surface of the Earth. So just throw all that in the garbage bin where it belongs and focus on the proper argument, which is the surface of the Earth. If you can't demonstrate the surface of the Earth to be curving, then your claim is null.
I can respect why you guys are saying that. I'm not trying to tell you guys that you're wrong. It was asked of me why I thought what I thought, and that's why I was sharing what I was sharing. So I'm not trying to be rude
How
or
do you
say,
guys
hey, you're
not know to go, oh, wow, thank you for pointing out the error in my thinking. I concede. Every time someone puts a genuine thought out response to some shit that some dummy has said, you guys go, well, look, I wasn't trying to be oppositional. I wasn't trying to start war or anything. And, I don't want to do anything that'll cause you to call me dumb. I'm just trying to fit in. What the fuck? Where y'all
Yeah.
learning this shit from? Like,
Yeah.
where
For
is this
example,
coming?
Elijah, I demonstrated to him how his rationale is flawed intrinsically. And rather than recognize it, he just said, oh, I could see how you think what you think. Didn't recognize that what he's thinking is an error. Now, to be fair to him, just because the reasoning that led him to his conclusion is false doesn't mean his conclusion is necessarily false. It could be proven otherwise. For example, by demonstrating surface curvature. That would prove it in the first instance. So how about some of that?
So just to be clear, I didn't come here to try and talk about why the Earth is round or why it's flat. I genuinely just wanted to listen in and try and understand. So just so you guys understand my motive, that was never it, to come in here and prove a point.
Well, fair point, but it's been demonstrated to you that the most rational conclusion, since water is axiomatically flat and level, is that the Earth is flat and level along with the water, and we all experience down as down everywhere we go. We experience horizontal as horizontal everywhere we go. We don't experience anything different than that. So the globe is an extraordinary claim, which doesn't have the proof in the first instance, which is directly demonstrable surface curvature. So there's no such thing as prove the flat Earth. The flat Earth is what we experience every single day. The globe is the claim that requires the proof.
Okay. And I think the only thing that I'm trying to get at is, even if, let's suppose you guys are all right and the Earth is flat, and my observation.
Hold on, you cut out, brother. Start over from like 10 seconds ago.
Oh, wonder what happened to me. That was cool.
You guys can't hear me very well?
No, you're back. You just completely cut out.
I apologize if my connection's not stable enough, and I can just type it out if you want. But
no, we got the gist of it, bro. You just cut out like the last part.
So I claim that I am a man of science and that I like science. It would be wrong for me at face value without going and experimenting on that myself, right? So
sure,
you'll have to pardon my apprehension.
Well, you just said you're a man. You just said you were a man of science, but you.
Well, I like to think that.
You like to think you're a man of science, but you don't know what natural science even is.
I never said I didn't know what that is.
No, I said that you don't know what it is, and you proved it by not calling me out with a malformed question.
I didn't feel the need to call you out.
Oh, dude, I mean, it's very easy to correct your typos post hoc. Okay, so let's just put that aside and be friends going forward. And let's say we have a proposition on the table that we're standing on a continuously curving surface, minus the topology and topography and all of those things, to which water, the surface water, is not privy to because it's a continuous amorphous body, right? So that means that surface water, the continuous amorphous body that's stuck on the Earth, is either flat and level exactly as we experience it, or it's curving.
right? That would
So
make
the
sense.
only way to arbitrate that proposition is to measure the water and see if it's curving or not. Would you agree?
I think that would be a good experiment to do. Yeah.
Okay, let's just call it a measurement.
Yeah, that's not an experiment. You compromise yourself.
Or observation, whatever you want to call it.
Okay, so what would be a good method to use, in your view, that you could think of?
The scientific method.
Holy mother of poop doopy doo.
Is that not a good method?
No, that is the right answer.
Okay.
Dude, don't gaslight him. You try to torture this poor guy.
You're
the
gonna.
method is great. It's just a category error, bro.
Let me ask you this question, friend. Since I do construction, right? So when I level a plot, let's say the one we did, we were going to put in a foundation, right? When we went to shoot the grade to find out how much earth we had to take out, did we use the scientific method?
I don't know.
Holy crap.
I've never done that myself.
Dude, how can you claim to consider yourself a man of science? And when I ask you about shooting a grade and removing earth, and whether that falls under the scientific method, you say, I don't know, rather than saying, well, of course not. All that you did was measure and then take the earth out.
Well, I've never done that, so that's why I claim I'm a man of science. I haven't done that. I've never shot a grade myself.
You don't have to do it. The
I mean,
point
that's-
is, you don't have to do it. You
Well,
just have
science-
to recognize it's not science.
Well, science is about doing and performing and experimenting. And if I haven't done it
experimenting.
myself,
All right.
Oh, interesting. So is science about performing composition fallacy? Is that what it's about?
I don't know.
Well, that's what you just did, friend. What you did is say when you're executing the scientific method, you do things. When you're digging a ditch, you do things. Therefore, digging a ditch is the scientific method.
Right. And I think you have done that based on what you've told me. I have not, is what I'm telling you.
Brother, you're missing the elephant in the room. You just contradicted yourself yet again.
I don't see how I did.
I know that's the
Please
problem.
explain.
You're
Because you're a
retarded.
man of science.
You're retarded. That's my
Okay, let me
explanation.
try. Let me try one last time, friend. Okay, so I have this 2x4, right? And I have a wall. And the wall is cut shorter than 8 feet. But one of the studs is broken, so I take it out and I want to replace it. But the stud that I bought is 8 feet long. So I must cut the stud to fit in the hole or the gap between the top plate and the bottom plate, which is less than 8 feet. So what I do is I take out my tape measure, I stick it on one board, I go down to the other board, and I look where the line is, and I see 79.5 inches. Then I go over and I cut my board.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. In that process, where is the cause and effect relationship being adjudicated by direct experimentation?
I don't know.
There isn't one. That's the answer. Therefore, it's not science that I'm doing. I'm just doing tasks
Yeah.
that include measuring and cutting. That's it.
That's true.
Right.
Yeah,
So
that's good
in
to
other
know.
words, yes, in other words, friend, going out and measuring something is not applying science.
Yeah, I think what he's trying to say simply is that shapes and measure are not scienceable. You can't do science to shapes, like distances. That would be like, how would you science a cube?
Right, friend.
Exactly.
Yeah, so I want to give you another example in the reverse. Okay, so you've heard of boiling water before, right? You've seen it happen in your life, right?
Yeah.
Most
Yep.
likely. Okay, so check this out. There's a certain temperature that water boils at, right?
Mhm.
In general, okay? 100 degrees Celsius, right?
Yes.
So if you apply 100 degrees Celsius to water, that water will boil. So
Depending, right?
if 100 degrees Celsius, yeah, you could choke up the variables. That's not the point.
Okay.
If 100 degrees Celsius applied to water, water will boil. Okay? But that does not mean that boiling water is the cause of 100 degrees Celsius.
Absolutely not. Yeah.
Right. Just like me measuring isn't the cause of cutting the board.
Or like you looking at the stars, that has a correlation to the floor you're standing on either. It's the same thing. You must agree. So you agree to all of the premises just now that Arden just spoke of.
Correct. And to be clear, back to what I was saying previously, I would be very surprised if most of us, if not all of us, at one point believed the surface of which we're standing on is spherical. So I'm coming in.
We all did. Sorry to interrupt you. I had to break in then because it's really important. We all did. All of us. Nearly all of us. We're globers.
Right.
I was for 58 years. Not only was I a glober, I was a globe Earth expert. When I was a little nerd years and years ago. I could tell you all the sizes, shapes, distances, everything. How many moons, what they look like, the names of them, how large they were, how far they were from the center of mass of the planet they're supposed to be on. I knew all of it, bro. I'm an expert at it.
So I'll give you an anecdote. So in my time in this venue, I've experienced less than 3 people who grew up flat earthers. That means that their parents taught them the earth was flat, or their society. One of them was an Indian woman who grew up on a reservation, and their view of the universe was flat, and that's what she was taught. Another one I think was some type of Amish or Mennonite or something, and the other I can't remember exactly, but I know it was no more than that. Other than that, dude, these extreme examples and niche examples, most people believe the earth is a globe because they were told so in their youth. And then that told so was reiterated through mass media for the rest of their lives. They never actually experienced earth as a globe. They never seen curved water. They've never seen curved earth. None of the claims of the globe they have ever experienced, not once. Yet they believed it anyway.
So when we say curved water, are we talking about if I pour out some water on my desk in front of me right now, and I can see that the water has a curvature to it? We're talking about something different, correct?
Obviously.
Okay.
We're talking about the earth, brother. The earth.
Yeah, we're not talking about the meniscus on the sides of a container that you hold in your hand, showing that that's a meniscus. That's the surface tension of the water. If you look over the ocean, there's a mean level between high and low troughs of waves, right? So if you can look off in the distance and all the peaks of the highest waves, you're looking over and you're looking 6 miles down and you're looking at another shoreline. From shoreline to shoreline, you're looking over the water, let's say at 6 feet above sea level, and you can see 5 to 6 miles. That shoreline that you're zooming into, that you can actually see tiny little waves, 1 and 2 foot waves, breaking on the far shore while you're zoomed in, should be 16.667 feet vertically lower than your elevation. That means there would be a ball or bulge of water in between you and the said object. So you could never possibly see that unless the Earth was flat. Now, if you go to the Black Swan, that's 10 miles. That should be 66.67 feet in lower elevation. That means a drop in elevation below the sagitta of the curve. So that Black Swan, the Black Swan itself makes the Earth radius, because of this observation, 264,000 miles. So you have to ask yourself, what is your margin for error in the globe itself? Because we have the islands in the same view. It would make the Earth about 1 billion miles in diameter.
Yeah. Keep in mind, I have to point this out because we get this a lot about small droplets of water, that the globe claim isn't that globes cause raindrops or globes cause, pods of water on your windshield. The claim is that there's this giant ball floating in a free space that is surrounded by a near infinite vacuum, right, in which water is wrapped 360 degrees around it. Right? That's the claim on the globe side against the base human axiom experience that water's flat and level in aggregate bodies. That's what we experience everywhere we go.
And 3 of the 4 wild claims require containment.
Right. All these globe claims, my friend, are directly against natural human experience. For example, they will tell you that you're revolving around the sun, but you are standing still in your experience and the sun is above you, moving. But they will tell you you're the one that's moving. The sun isn't moving. That's against your experience. They'll tell you that water curves around a ball. That's against your experience. They'll tell you that down is inwards and people in Australia are antipodal to you. But if you go to Australia, you're right side up. So the claim that Australians are antipodal to North Americaners is against your experience.
Yeah. I guess my question, probably one of my biggest questions for flat earthers is, what about time zones? What's your guys' takes on time zones?
Well, hold on, friend. What are time zones?
Well, so basically when the sun sets, the sun rises at different times. And, I was just on a business trip the other week where I was 3 hours difference from my family. We got on a call. The sun had set for them. It wasn't setting for me. So I want to know, if the...
Sure. Yeah, I get you.
I just want to understand, if we're on a flat surface, it should set and rise for all of us at the same time, I would think.
Well, you're making a lot of assumptions there that you don't know you're making. And I could parse you through those assumptions, or I could just show you an image of a demonstration. So just look in the live stream voice text and you'll see a demonstration of a hemispheric dome over a flat representation of the Earth with a singular light source, and you'll notice that it's not possible for the light to illuminate the entire surface. So it is not true that a singular light source must, of a necessity, if it's above a surface, illuminate the entire surface. That again is a claim.
So what is that thing that the light source is moving around?
What thing?
That's
the image there.
It's a
okay,
flat
so that
surface
is
with a half dome.
Yes,
Is that?
It's a piece of paper printed out Earth flat, and a hemispheric mag dome that is usually a paperweight that uses a magnifier placed over it. So it's an intermediary medium between the light and the receiver of the light that causes the light to not be able to illuminate the entire surface because the light isn't strong enough to reach the whole surface. Now, we know that we have an atmosphere, correct? And we know that light has attenuation and it also has an extinction limit. And it has what's known as atmospheric occlusion. And it also has scattering and dithering, right? So there's no necessary reason that a singular light source must illuminate the entire Earth.
Right.
Now, keep in mind, Fred, I want to point this to you.
Well, and I would agree with that. No singular light source does illuminate the Earth. We've got other bodies of whatever that we want to call them.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. But I want to just point out that whatever the sun is and whatever the light is doing, they are not affixed to the surface. And if you measure the surface water and it measures flat, then it's flat. If it measures curved, then it's curved. So what the sun is doing is highly irrespective of whether that surface water is flat or not.
So there's a lot of demonstrations of people talking about the curvature and the water situation that you guys have been describing, where, you know, if we have a ship that's way far out in the ocean.
Absolutely, I understand. So I want to ask you a question.
You're watching it and you can see that it looks like it's below.
Okay, stop right there, friend.
Staying. Yeah.
Stop right there and focus on what you just said. It looks like.
Mm-hmm.
Who went out and validated the arc of the water between point A and B to verify that what you think is going on is what's going on? Okay, because rest assured, friend, if you say to yourself, I can't see the bottom of that boat, and theorize in your mind, well, that would be true if there was a big hump of water in between me and it. Now, that is true if the if was conditionally proved in the first instance. Otherwise, you just have a logical fallacy known as affirming the consequent. So you have to validate the first instance of the conditional if, which is that surface curved? And the way to validate that is with direct measurement. So, for example, my friend, there are highly advanced theories of optics, right? And physical necessities of optics that mean, of a necessity, as an object moves away from you and approaches 0 degrees in your field of view, relative to the propagation angles, which is the light coming, and the reception angles, which is what the optic can receive, as soon as that light angles fall below the angular resolution limit of the optic, all the image that's within that range is unresolvable. Now, I want to tell you something very curious, and just roll with me on this with an open mind. The alleged horizon where things start to disappear for a 6-foot tall observer is 3 miles approximately. Now, the triangle of your angular resolution limit intersecting a horizontal line extending out from your feet for a 6-foot tall observer is, guess where? Approximately 3 miles. So, I know that optics can cause the bottoms of things to be unresolvable. 1, because I've seen it in my real life. 2, because it's mathematically and physical necessity of having an optics with an angular field of view. So it's not true that the only thing that can preclude the bottom of something is an object in the way, such as an earth curve hump. So we're left with an affirming the consequent that has not been conditionally validated. So again, the arbitration of whether or not that if is true has to be and can only be direct measurement. You notice how no matter which way we go, we end up with the conditional for the first instance proof being direct measurement of the surface. It's the only way.
You're saying that on a flat surface, when I go out 3 miles, the amount of whatever it is that I'm looking at diminishes because why? To me, as the observer.
Let me make clear. Let me make clear to you. You already know this is true. It's called the law of perspective. You already know that everything as it recedes away from you diminishes, correct?
Yeah.
Right. So now you just need to go the extra step and understand the way in which the angular relationship on the y-axis diminishes. So normally people use ideal perspective like an artist draws with a point, and then they draw the lines to it, and then they draw their little buildings. You know that. You've seen that.
Mm-hmm.
That's not the way optics work. Optics work with diminishing returns as the angles get smaller, right? Because the wavelengths of light interfere with each other. Now, whether light is a wave or a particle doesn't really matter. You could prove these things with optical experiments that these things diminish and interfere. And this is why we have things like the Rayleigh criterion, which is the mathematical formula for an optic of what its resolvability is. So
why?
you know, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to ask. So we agree that as something recedes away from you, it diminishes. I think that we both agree on. Let's say we're observing something that's 3 miles out. I'm at the shore. It's on the ocean somewhere. We're on this body of water, and as I'm looking at it through a lens of some sort, the only part that is obscured to me is the bottom part of this thing, right? The other parts of this this object are not obscured in any way. So,
Well, so the word is what you're actually searching for is unresolved. The accurate term physically is unresolved. Obscured means that there's something blocking it. What I'm talking about is unresolvability based on the angles of which the light comes from and the available angles of reception, which are renderable.
mm-hmm.
Okay, so if you had a perfect straight line, 1 for 1 for every, let's just call it ray of light to every point, you could see the entire object with no effects of perspective whatsoever, but we have an angular field of view. Now, as the angle approaches 0 degrees, the angle gets smaller and smaller, right? It's obvious.
Right.
Now, also, the angle from the top to the bottom is bigger than the angle from the 90% of the top to the bottom is bigger than the angle from the 80% of the top to the bottom, because we see in packets, we don't see in points, even though there's a trillion, billion, quadrillion points of light on an object. An object is not an all or nothing. It's many, many points of packets of light that are available to us to be resolved. Now, if any of those packets of light, let's just call them separate colors like blue and red or white, if any of them fall within the same angle, right, of propagation and reception that's below your resolvable limit for the human eye, it's 0.02 degrees. When those angles are below 0.02 degrees, all of that information becomes unresolvable. And it just so happens that as you approach 0 and you go out in the distance, that angle is going to be at the bottom of the object. It's exactly where it's going to be. Now, if you know anything about triangles, a triangle starts at an acute angle, and then it goes along the leg, and the opposite side, right, gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger as you get away from the acute angle, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that big leg is causing more space on the vertical y-axis to become unresolved. And it just so happens that when you're standing on the horizon, or the horizontal, mind you, not the horizon.
Mm-hmm.
When you're standing on the horizontal, that angle is going to occupy the bottom of everything on the same plane as you. So we would expect of a necessity that everything in that little zone you can't see. It's not going to resolve on the sensor.
So is there a map or something that flat earthers all agree on, like so that I can see what you guys think the surface of the earth looks like?
Well, that would require information that we would all have to have the accessibility to all of the earth to acquire.
Well,
Now,
it's like, yeah, you're right. It would, wouldn't it? You'd have to have the information of the whole earth, wouldn't you?
And are we missing part of that, or?
Well, think about
Well,
it this
we're
way,
just-
friend.
sorry, go ahead.
I don't want to step all over Flatsy, but it's kind of like there's a lot of things that could be answered in a complete generality. For example, in the globe, quote unquote, paradigm, what's the cause of the seasons? The relative position of the sun to the earth. Okay. If the earth is flat, what's the cause of the seasons? The relative position of the sun to the earth. You notice how it's exactly the same? Just the particulars are slightly different. So if you had a flat earth, okay, you'd have a large area of flat water with a bunch of land.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Exactly as you'd imagine it.
Yeah.
There'd be water and some land here and there. Guess what you have on the globe Earth? You have some water and some land here and there.
Mm-hmm. So I guess what I'm trying to, the reason why I'm asking that is, I mean, we live in
Stop, friend.
Oh, sure.
Stop. Just stop.
Sure.
I got to stop you for 1 second to bring up a specific point.
Sure.
And I want to submit to you for your consideration.
Mm-hmm.
The reason you're asking that is because you allowed the contingent point to already have been passed by without parsing it. And that is whether the water is curved or not. The direct measurement. We've been talking about everything, but is it practical to directly measure the water to find out if it's curving or not? So now that I've said that, go ahead.
You want me to answer whether we should check to see if it's curved or no?
Don't you think that that's the only question that matters?
I think that's a great question.
No, it's the only question, friend. Though I want to be clear to you, friend. If an object is flat like a piece of paper or a sphere, we know of a necessity that a sphere requires 360-degree curvature, right? And a piece of paper doesn't have that. So if you want to know which one's which, you just apply a measure to it and see if it's curved. If it's not curved, then the other option is the truth.
Right.
Yeah,
Very simple.
the reconciliation has to come with first the initial understanding whether or not the Earth is curving into a ball or not. So if it is curving into a ball, no reconciliation required. If it isn't, reconciliation is required to your worldview. That may be painful. It was to all of us, I guarantee you. But in the grand scheme of things, it was something that we were able to change our mind about because the evidence is there, whether you want to see it or not.
Right. And I get that. I appreciate you saying it that way too. And honestly, I'm kind of a masochist in that I like learning that I'm wrong on something because it's an opportunity to learn.
Perfect.
And I like learning.
Okay, so do you want to go on that journey now, or do you want to talk more about
We have
if the
something
Earth
in
is
common.
flat? Yeah, think about it this way. Do you want to talk about that, or do you want to talk about if the Earth was flat, then how does my globe interpretation fit on a flat Earth?
Because it wouldn't.
So I guess my biggest question is, if we're on this flat surface, right, wherever it is, I'm not going to say in space because we don't know that space exists. We're kind of like on a stage, maybe. But if we're on this flat surface, is there an edge to it? Like when I think of flat Earth, I think of a coin in space, but I realize that's not the only. It's not the only way to
Conclusion that
think
you can
about
draw.
flat.
Right. Yeah, well, we understand upon further investigation, because you damn well better believe that we all investigated further once we found out the Earth isn't curving and there's no direct measurement of drop over distance curvature. So we investigate further, and that brought us to other, um, I guess, in practical terms, other truths about things that we're told, like let's say entropy. Entropy only goes in one direction; it increases. So we have a bunch of like laws, like natural laws that cannot be violated in nature. So we have gas pressure that we breathe here on the Earth. And if ever bothered to look up the definition of gas pressure, in the definition itself, the antecedent to it is containment, because gas pressure is caused by the gases exerting on the walls of its container. And that's how you get gas pressure in your propane tank or what have you. It's exerting pressure on the walls of the container. So if we have gas pressure here that we're breathing, there has to be containment. There has to be a container. that rules out the whole idea of, let's say, expounding on that premise. You
Yep.
also can't have gas pressure adjacent to a near perfect vacuum of space, what have you. Yeah, so you're left with an antecedent relationship when it comes to gas pressure due to how gas pressure is achieved and the fact that gas pressure, when next to a vacuum, it will disperse violently in all directions. So the whole vacuum, near perfect vacuum of space is impossible. So whatever they're
Yeah,
saying
absolutely.
and whatever all those cartoons that they're showing you up there, it can't be possible. It's a second law of thermodynamics violation. So that's why we
Right.
know for a fact.
Absolutely. I agree.
So-
So, but hold
So-
on before you continue.
Yeah.
I want to point out another parallel.
Mhm.
So remember how I say the explanations are kind of general in both paradigms. So, for example, you ask, if the Earth is flat, what about the boundaries of the Earth? Fair point. Now, I would just as easily say, if the Earth was in a giant expanding vacuum universe, where are the edges of the universe? It's the exact same question. The boundaries are unknown and indefinite, right?
Mm-hmm.
To me. So it's the same question. And guess what? Philosophers and scientists have postulated the ideas about the boundaries of the alleged universe. Some of them so much so that they said contemplating the boundaries of the universe are horrifying. Horrifying was the term they used. Why? Why would just wondering about, does the boundary go on forever? Does it stop at a specific point? Or what? Or is it expanding into something else? Why is that horrifying? Very interesting, but you notice how neither of those points are contingent upon the shape of the surface. So I want to submit to you that you asked the right question and then screwed it up at the end. So the right question is this, my friend. I would want to know, not if the Earth was flat, what about the edge? You should have stopped and said this. I would want to know if the Earth was flat, period.
Okay.
Now I'm going to ask you again, friend. Do you want to know that, or do you just want to talk about if the Earth was flat, how does my globe explanations fit on the flat Earth?
Yeah, I'd like to know that.
Okay, perfect. So what you do is you go out to the water and you use an effective methodology of determining whether the water is curved or flat. Let's call it laser transit. It's a very effective methodology used in grade and construction equipment. Use a laser. You set it up at a known level. You take a storyboard, which is where the laser will hit. You take it out to another location, and that will tell you the differential in the surface between point A and point B. So you take it out to a sufficient sample size. Let's call it 25 miles. At 25 miles, okay, the globe Earth predicts a hump of Earth curve that would leave the laser beam, if it was level, in differential to the target, a 285-foot difference. So the laser would pass over the target by 285 feet. So you
Or
set the
just say
target
the
up.
amount, right?
Sure, but this is specifics. We're using
Yeah.
metrics that are given by the globe, all right?
Sure.
So now you could do the same thing when you're doing a grade, by the way, or you're trying to figure out, where you want to put extra cement or take away dirt, all these types of things. Same principle. You're finding out the relief below the laser level. So this differential would be 285 feet approximately. And you set up about a 6-foot high laser, right? And then you set up a 6-foot high target. Okay, if the target is hit by the laser, right? In an ideal situation, that means the maximum differential between the water line and the laser is the 6 feet above sea level, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if the laser hits with a 6-foot differential to 270 feet, that is an error of 2 orders of magnitude. practically disproving the globe in totality because it demonstrates that the curve necessary to sustain the spherical surface isn't present. That would be done through direct methodology. Now, you have to take into account ambient refraction conditions that would move the laser a maximum amount of approximately 5 feet, give or take. You then have to take in the millirad divergence at that range for that laser, right? And that was about another 3 feet. So you have 3 to 5, and of course the variable on the center. So you're talking of a maximum swing into the double digits, right? So it could be a disproval by 2 orders of magnitude and 1 order of magnitude. Either way, it's being disproved by a swing of hundreds of feet. Right, because you're talking 285 versus 15 feet. So even if you take the 15 away from the 285, you end up with what? Carry the banana minus blue, 270, right? No, 280? No, 270. Yeah, so there you go, 270, right? 270 feet off from the prediction, nullifying it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then
let me go ahead.
Go ahead. I was going to say, if you want to go test that out and then compare and contrast with all of the observations done that from the flat Earth community, there's plenty of information to compare and contrast with your own observations. Don't take our word for it. We'd much rather you go and do it yourself. But you can compare and contrast with everyone else. So we got plenty of stuff here in the server.
Right. So what are we comparing and contrasting with? A proposition? No, we're comparing and contrasting with a field team known as the Field Engineer Corps, comprised of engineers, mathematicians, etc. Developed a laser system with a integrated aiming system known as the SALAD, SALAD, super accurate laser aiming device. They engineered this machine to be able to get essentially like a 1 to 6400 gear ratio so they could steer the laser to get it level and on target, right?
Mm-hmm.
They built the apparatus for the laser, they put the collimator on it, and they took it to Lake Idsil. Okay, I can't remember the country, but it's somewhere in Europe. The semi-frozen lake. Okay, this was the culmination of, I think, 17 or 27, it's either 17 or 27 shots that they did, smaller, until they built their way up to the 25-mile test. At the 25-mile test across Lake Idsil, they set up 3 targets at different locations horizontally along the water so that they could pan the laser horizontally to get it to the target. So they panned it at a short-range target, a mid-range target, and then the long-range target, because obviously it's very hard to aim a laser because a small tweak here is going to make a big tweak out there, which is why they had to develop the sled machine.
Mm-hmm.
So they took it there, and they fired the laser across the lake, and they received the light from the laser directly in the camera next to the target board. So the light from the laser reached the target. When you analyze the target image, because lasers have a Gaussian profile, you can use a Gaussian profile analyzer to see where the beam centroid is. And when applied, it shows that the laser was pointed directly at the camera. Now, my friend, through direct methodology, the hump of Earth curve that's supposed to be the equivalent of 270 feet of differential decided to not show up to work that day.
So does it have to be done? Oh, go ahead.
Just 1 second. Water is flat and level, just like we experience it, and it's measured flat and level through laser transit. Therefore, the contiguous body of water that wraps around the Earth isn't curving, and the Earth cannot be a sphere. What say you?
I like it. I'm excited because I think I want to go and perform an experiment to confirm that. And I'm just wondering, does it have to be with a body of water that you do this, or can you, go somewhere where it's extremely flat and do the same sort of experiment?
Well, I mean, you probably could. There are obviously certain benefits to doing it to water. And the reason is because any surface that's landlocked, for example, you take a wooden ball that you're going to carve.
Mm-hmm.
You could, in theory, carve off a flat spot on that ball, correct?
Absolutely.
But if you had a continuous amorphous body of water, right, that seeks its own level, so much so that it's an axiom and folklore throughout human antiquity, the phrase water seeks its level.
Yeah, you can't create a bulge or whatever in water.
Temporarily,
sure, but like
in theory you could, in the local area, create a small differential perhaps, but it's not going to sustain itself because the entire body is going to equivalate, seek equilibrium.
Yeah.
And that is why if you're looking to falsify the claim that water is wrapped around a giant ball, because that's really the core of the claim.
Mm-hmm.
That's how you falsify it. Because if you prove that water's not curving, then the 70% of the territory is proven not to be curving. Because if you just prove your backyard isn't curving, then all you've proved is your backyard isn't curving. But if you prove that 70% of the territory isn't curving, you've nullified the claim that it's a ball wrapping around itself.
So the Bonneville Salt Flats, are you familiar with them?
Yes.
What I'm thinking is I go out there and I perform this experiment because it's a vast space, right? One of the flattest areas that I can think of. I think there's somewhere much further away from me that's flatter. But if I were to go out there, perform this experiment with a laser, in theory, there should be little to no deviation.
Right. So it just so happens there's plenty of these tests done. For example, Dr. John Dee, whose doctorate is in optics, did a dual band laser across the body of water, right? The reason being is that different laser colors refract at different rates. And so he can mitigate and measure the refraction at the other end between the two lasers to nullify the claim of any error due to refraction, and he can quantify it. He validated there's no big hump of Earth curve. A husband and wife went on a frozen lake. The wife took a flashlight out 7 miles, saw the flashlight from 7 miles away, right? Should be below the hump. A guy took different colored beacons out on a frozen lake, did the same test with different colors for the same reasons that Dr. John Dee did, right? And they should have been refracting at different rates at the different ranges he put the different colors, demonstrating there's no hump of Earth curve. And on the list goes.
If you don't want to buy a laser, you could just
go ahead.
Look out like the sunset and how it reflects on the surface of the water. There's different ways light dissipates over concave, convex, and flat, water or surface. And you can just verify that just by the sunset if you really don't want to go into all of that and do your own experiment observing.
Hey, but I think that the Bolivian salt flats are a great place. They're just not a body of water like we were talking about. Bolivian salt flats are a globe killer.
Well, let's be clear. Some salt flats are a body of water at certain times of the year. In fact, they're a pristinely flat mirror.
Yeah.
A couple inches of water on the surface, and they make a pristine mirror in which you see reflections that are non-distort, right? Exactly like a specular reflection.
Yep.
Right? So when have you ever seen such a reflection from a curved surface? You haven't. You've only seen them from flat mirrors.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna have to get myself some equipment and head out there and do this and document it and share it with you guys see how things
Hey, it
go.
would be a great vacation.
Well, dude, we've got a wiki. Listen, we've got a wiki page with hundreds of flat Earth observations. We could gladly put yours in there.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Absolutely. Would love to.
And then we'll let you have some snacks in the back and use our bathroom when we welcome you to Flat Earth.
Yeah, and you smoke them if you got them.
That's awesome. Yeah, so I live pretty close to these salt flats. Somebody said a vacation, but I just want to let you guys know. So I'm about 20 minutes away from them, and
Wow,
I actually
lucky guy.
they're just
You
here
would
in
be a great,
Utah.
you'd be a great addition to the
Wait a minute.
flat earthers
The, Bo-
being that close.
the Bolivian, how are the Bolivian
Bonneville.
salt flats? Oh, Bonneville. There you go.
Bonneville salt flats. Yep.
They
Oh, I'm
sound
sorry.
similar. They sound
I thought
similar,
he
though.
pronounced it wrong.
Yeah, no. Bonneville.
Either way.
Bonneville used to be a lake, which it's evaporated, and we're left with the Great Salt Lake. But the salt flats are extremely flat, and they do a lot of land speed records out there with high-speed ground vehicles because it's so flat.
So
if you've seen
question-
Independence Day, that Will Smith was walking on the salt flats when the alien crashes and he punches it in the head.
When
Hey,
you
sorry. I wanted to apologize for telling you to shut your pie hole earlier. So,
Oh, you're good.
my apologies. And I think you may be coming around just from listening to you. The change is quite remarkable, and I hope you stick to it. And it's not an experiment. It's just a line of sight observation or test. So all you're doing is checking for any elevation changes in any distance, so that's all it is. So we use water to level everything from canals. That's how they built canals. They would build a trench along the canal where the canal, like let's say there wasn't a canal, they build a trench, a big long trench, because it doesn't matter what the bottom or the sides are. When you fill it with water, it's level, so they could use that level to make the canal go from a level datum from that water the top of that water over to where the canal is being built, and then dig down exactly from that level to a datum. And like the Suez Canal is 100 miles long with no locks.
That's interesting.
That water is level. That water is level from one side to the other, 100 miles or a little bit more, actually, not more than 1 foot difference or something like that. So
Pretty cool that you stuck with us though, because we can be very passionate because we're always subjected to ridicule, and I guess that could turn some folks a little hard towards folks.
Hold
who
on, Flatsy. Flatsy, you're being too
Go
kind.
ahead. I'm not
Okay.
gonna. All right.
No, I'm being serious. You're being too kind
Yeah,
to
you're
the
right.
opponents. 'Cause I want to explain to this friend what it is. Okay. So
Sure.
flat earthers are the niggers that are allowed to be called niggers. Flat earthers are the scum of the earth. Flat earthers are told not to breed. Flat earthers are excommunicated from their families. You could tell your family you're coming out as this, that, and the other, right? Chopping your dick off. They'll be like, "Yay! You come out as a flat earther." They'll excommunicate you. Flat earthers get discharged from churches. Why? What's so
Ironically.
bad? Now, not only that, friend, but let me tell you what we've experienced. Okay, not only ridicule, not only shame, not only called the stupidest people on the earth, not only from the average person, but all the way up to Congress. The United States Congress and even the President of the United States has insinuated that flat earthers are stupid. What other group is allowed to be treated this way? Think about it. people will tell you, oh, you can't talk about the Jews, you can't talk about this, right? But you could just make fun of flat earthers like they deserve to die and nobody bats an eye. Nobody says, wait a
Yeah.
minute, dude. You're talking about people's moms and dads and loved ones, and they just have an alternative cosmology. What's wrong with you? No, they chip in and laugh too. Let me tell you what we've experienced here, friend. Mr. Brian Mullen, an engineer, came up with an idea to adjudicate whether the surface was flat or curved by creating a superstructure known as forced line, which is essentially a level piece of steel that is then squared off into the distance and kept level because it's square. And you could then see whether the earth is curving below the structure or parallel with the structure. For his efforts in deciding, we could figure this out, a globe zealot decided that I'm going to seek out this man's career. He appealed to the engineering board and stuff to try to get the man fired. Told his employer. Brian Mullen had to essentially go into hiding. So he quit his ideas about flat earth and talking about it because of this man. We have had globers, okay, attempt to romantically entangle themselves with flat earth believing women with the attempt to use romance to thwart them back to the globe. And then what would they do afterwards? Dump them? Right? The list, and these are just a few of the things. The list goes on and on. How people think they have the right to treat flat earthers like they're the scumbags of the universe.
Yeah, that's
Why?
not free. That's not free thinking, or and really, society shouldn't promote that sort of tolerance towards any group of people. And if I disagree with you guys, which I may right now, right, or it may not be that I'm disagreeing. It's more that I'm apprehensive and skeptical. But my skepticism has kept me safe from a lot of things. So, but I'm very open-minded. I like learning new things, and more importantly, I like meeting new people. And one of my favorite quotes is from Abe Lincoln, and he said, "Do I not destroy my enemies when I make them my friends?" And if there's no need for us to hate each other or to call each other names or try to put each other down just because we see something differently. I feel like respect and tolerance and kindness can go a long ways, and it doesn't matter who's right and who's wrong. But at the end of the day, science does state that there is a right, and the challenge that I see is if we're at each other's throats. Let's say I'm wrong. If I'm attacking or too defensive, the chances of me understanding that I'm wrong go significantly down. So
right. So
cool heads prevail.
Let's talk about that claim, because that is a claim that's out there, that science is right whether you like it or not. Now, that may be true only if the proposition in question and the idea in question is being put forth under the scrutiny and application of science. But most propositions alleged to be science are not science. They're pseudoscience.
True.
It's a fraud. Now, the term science has been co-opted for its vigor and rigor in the ability to adjudicate certain statements, whether true or false, primarily cause and effect relationships. Now, the experimental validity of cause and effects relationships through the scientific method, that merit was stolen and applied to things that aren't science, and they were taught to us as science. For example, the heliocentric model. The majority of the heliocentric model and idea cannot be validated through the scientific method. In fact, prominent astrophysicists today say people in my field don't use the scientific method. No one in my field uses the scientific method. What we operate on is guessing, leaps of logic, mathematical constructs, etc. So while you may be right that science has a way of validating things and arbitrating certain propositions, It is not the only source of epistemology or the arbiter of all propositions. For
Right,
example, sometimes you just have to measure something. So I'll submit to you that we, as the public, have been duped into this paradigm claimed as science, but it's actually science falsely so called.
Right. No, I totally agree. There's been times in our history, recent history, I would even say that science has been wrong, right? And so we have to be careful what we call science, because I'm not
Sure.
saying if anybody claims that they're doing something in the name of science that they are accurate, or that there's validity behind what they're saying. So
Yeah,
I
a
get
simple
that.
a simple Google search of the peer review crisis will demonstrate that the majority of scientific claims are never reproducible or never have been validated by experiments in the first instance. They're just one big giant circle jerk of people agreeing with each other. Now, when it comes to the heliocentric model and paradigm, specific times in the history of the formulation of this idea, there are men who have been involved as the primary pushers of the ideas that came to a conclusion where they had a fork in the road and they had to make a decision of how to interpret the facts. And in their own words, in their own lectures, in their own books, they admitted that they chose one option over the other on philosophical grounds, not necessary grounds. That should make anyone shudder when they're thinking about the scientific paradigm as this dispassionate rule of measure. No, it's not dispassionate. It has humans at the helm, and humans are corrupt. Humans lie, humans steal, humans have biases. So these men, right, came to this piece of evidence that seemed to indicate that the Earth is at the center of the universe, completely decrying certain theories. So what did they do? They decided to interpret the data differently based on a philosophical bias. They said in their own words that the idea that the Earth is at the center or in a special place in the cosmos is intolerable. Intolerable. Meaning to them, they cannot tolerate the concept that the Earth is at the center. Why? Why? Another man used the word terrifying. The implications of the Earth being at the center of the universe are terrifying. Why? Why would the Earth being in this place or that place strike terror into a man's heart? Well, my friend, you and I both know the answer, don't we? There's only one answer. Okay, the vast materialistic pursuit of the one universe theory is based on creating an excuse that we don't need a God. Okay, that's the honest truth, and that's why the implications of being in the center are terrifying. Because if we're in the center of everything, and we are the epicenter of everything, then that has huge metaphysical implications for the nature of humanity in relationship to speciality, which requires intention. And in that requires a higher power. And these men do not want to be accountable to a higher power. And that is why quotes from these men say so, like this. It's not that science forces us to create a certain apparatus of discovery, right? Rather, we choose it on philosophical biases because we cannot allow a divine foot in the door. Does that sound like dispassionate measure and rule? Or does that sound like a guy shoving his religious predispositions up an idea? Well, I think we both know the answer.
Yeah.
The formation of the heliocentric paradigm is rife with these types of examples. In fact, there's a video, right? 200 pivotal quotes from these men that change everything about this paradigm. And you could just watch this video. It's 200 quotes.
Mm-hmm.
There's a commentary, right? And each one directly demonstrates to you the bias in the way this thing was formulated. People like Einstein, Hubble, Galileo, all these people who are so pivotal in the paradigm we quote unquote have today. So let me submit to you, friend, that it's not true.
The quotes are regarding what again? Sorry, help me understand that.
The
Philosophical
ideas
bias.
about the interpretations of the facts. So you look at a set of facts,
Mhm.
and it could be interpreted this way or it could be interpreted that way, and they just pick one or the other based on philosophy.
Oh, okay.
Like the universe expanding or contracting. Like I think it's Hubble that talks about the Doppler, and he goes, if you look at the redshift, blue shift, and you look at it from this other matrix of interpretation, then the universe is shrinking. But if you look at it this way, the universe is expanding. And we don't like the idea of the universe shrinking because that would mean the Earth is probably at the center. So therefore, it must be expanding. Why? Because I say so. Because I feel like choosing it. Because I don't like the idea of being. I don't like the idea of being specifically placed at the center of creation by a creator. I don't like that idea. I find it appalling and horrifying, and therefore I'm going to choose otherwise.
Right. It's philosophical, not
right. So we
not
arrive
factual.
today. Yeah, we arrive today where we're taught that science is this dispassionate fact-finding mission, right? To where we give you the explicit facts of reality as best we know them, apart from our bias, and that just ain't true. Hey, let me put it to you this way, friend. Cosmology has 0 viable scientific hypotheses. Astronomy has 0 scientific hypotheses. Astrophysics has 0 scientific hypotheses. None of them are in the purview of the scientific method because the variables are intangible in principle, because they're out there. That means, my friend, that what we have arrived at today is an interpretation, no different than a religion. In fact, it is a religion. Heliocentric paradigm that has been perpetrated upon the world, that we live on a giant floating space ball hurtling through space from a big bang in an infinite vacuum, is a religious proposition, sir, not science.
Right. It's more of a belief, right? And I think people that don't perform their own experiments and observations, they subscribe to belief systems, not necessarily science.
Right, but this belief system has everything. It has a creation story. It has an origin story. It has a system of morality, how we should think about it. It even has a salvation story that one day we will merge with machines and transpose ourselves out of our physical bodies and become energy clouds floating in the cosmos. It has all the bells and whistles of a space religion. That's what it is.
Crazy. So my next question, if it's okay, I have one more that I'm curious about, and that's regarding gravity.
Sure.
Like, help me understand.
Sure.
Your.
I don't even need you to ask any more questions. I can tell you all about it.
Cool.
Okay. Gravity is a creative force, no different than a god in the heliocentric mythos, alleged to be the creation mechanism of these giant floating balls, where you have from the explosion massive particulates that then accrete together through gravitational forces and stick together into giant balls. The problem is when you model gravitational accretion on disparate clouds of gas and matter, right, in a computer, you don't get balls. Mm-hmm. In fact, what you have to do to get a ball, you have to add factors called stickiness factors. You have to control and curate the experience in order to get a ball, right? So even then it falls apart. Secondly, gravity is alleged to be the thing we know as down and up. 1 second, I'm going to clear my throat.
And I'm holding my hand up because I want to say something whenever you're done.
So gravity is alleged to be that creative force, right? Now I want to submit to you, my friend, Nobody went in a time machine and verified any of this. Not to mention that they can't model it. Right? So just take that history lesson about their creation story and put that on the side for now. And let's talk about what it is in practicality. Because the only reason why gravity comes up in a globe Earth flat Earth discussion is because people believe that the Earth is already a globe and therefore you need an inwards attraction to pull everything to the center of the globe. If the Earth is flat, you don't need such a thing. It's irrelevant. However, let's just say, for sake of argument, that gravity isn't the effect we see. Because let me tell you, friend, when you drop something that's denser than the air, it goes to the ground. When you let something go that's lighter than the air, it goes up. You experience that. I've experienced that. Flatsy's experienced that. Kim Jong-un in North Korea has experienced that. Everyone experiences that. Now, if you just said that's gravity, and we just call that phenomena gravity, that things go up and down based on their density in the medium relative to it, that would be fine. But that's not the claim. The claim of gravity in the heliocentric paradigm is that giant floating space balls either attract everything to them through mass attracts mass forces or through the bending and warping of space-time itself. Now, either one is appealing to one thing, one phenomena that we all experience. What's that phenomena? Down. Okay, gravity is synonymous with down. Down is synonymous with the opposite of up. Up and down are synonymous with perpendicular to level.
Right.
Level is synonymous with horizontal. So, my
Right.
friend, I would submit to you that all we have ever experienced about gravity is up and down. That's it. We have never experienced, not once in our entire lives, the globe claim, which is inwards towards a giant floating ball. Never.
Okay.
Can I say something, or do you want to say something real quick, Sage?
I want to
No,
say
no, no.
something else. Yeah.
Go for it. Go for it.
So to
Okay.
wrap this up, my friend,
Okay, go ahead.
wrap this up. Even if you give a concession that gravity is a force towards the center of mass, you can have a center of mass with a disparate structure above it and a flat Earth above that. So gravity is highly irrelevant to the globe or flat Earth. The only reason gravity is relevant is if you already have a globe or you need a creation story for a globe. Other than that, doesn't matter. With that, I yield to Flatsy.
Yes, remember the scientific method, and Einstein supersedes the mass attracts mass. But if you want to go with either, if you want to say Newton's, mass attracts mass, or Einstein's bending and warping of space-time, I implore you to go find a viable hypothesis for either of them to follow the scientific method, because also you should look up the definition to pseudoscience, because it's a collection of practices and beliefs that are they claim to be based off of the scientific method but are not. That is what pseudoscience is. So all you've got are mathematical constructs to describe why things go up and down, but mainly down.
Right. Right.
If you can find a viable hypothesis in either of their papers, bring them here. We've been looking for it. It ain't there.
Okay. I guess my question is, and this is I don't pretend to know a lot about gravity. I think gravity, in my personal observations, is a downward force, right? And I don't know if that downward force is because we're on a spherical object. Right. I've always assumed that it is, and so the whole mass attracts mass idea makes sense, or has made sense to me. The curious part to me is that it's not a linear rate of downward force, right? It's exponential, and
What? What do you mean exponential?
Well, so if we drop something, there is terminal velocity, right? But the rate at
Oh,
which
the rate of
something
thought.
the
Yeah,
rate
he's
at which
gonna go.
something accelerates towards the ground, it's exponential until it hits that terminal velocity,
The
right?
9.8 meters squared.
Sure. So let's
That's
say
what
that that's true. Let's say that's true.
Mhm.
What of a contingent necessity for that to be true requires a sphere to be below the vector of directionality? The answer I will submit to you, my friend, just listen. The answer is 0.
Right. No, I think that's neither here nor there. It could be a cube. It could be a coin.
Bingo, friend. Now we're getting
No.
somewhere.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. I guess my I don't even know if this is directly related to flat Earth or not, but it's just an observation, one that I'm trying to understand about gravity, and that is why is it an exponential rate increase and not a linear one? And because I think there's some interest, there could be some interesting things around that. But gravity's something that I think a lot of people in the world claim to understand that don't actually understand.
Well, I mean, it's kind of simple.
It's like
There's
quantum
something-
physics. If you understand, the people that know about it don't understand it.
And the people that understand it don't know about it.
Yeah.
It's so funny because we are dealing with some flat earthers that are making wild claims about it right now because they want a replacement for why things go down. And really, the simple thing is that sometimes just the reality and what we all observe is just the way that the reality is. Maybe there's not an answer that we can acquire, and that's fine. That's fine with me until something is put forth that isn't fallacious, or based off of fallacious reasoning, because I won't accept that. And I don't think anybody in this panel now, hopefully, wouldn't either. And I would implore you to start learning about logical fallacies because that is what the globe paradigm is riddled with, are logical fallacies.
Yeah, friend. So let's do an experiment right now with you. Okay. It's very simple. Just requires you to follow along and answer the questions.
Is it just me or is it AI roboting?
No, it's not me. I hear him just fine.
Me too. I hear him fine. Your connection, maybe.
All right. So now that science denier has tried to stop this experiment, let's continue. Okay. So 3 days ago, I ate a big bucket of chicken and I got full. Okay. I ate a big bucket of chicken, therefore I was full. Today, I'm full. What did I eat? Any answer?
I'm the only one that's to answer, I suppose.
Well, anybody can answer if they know what I ate, based on the evidence
Biscuits
that
and
I've given
gravy.
so far. Okay, it's a good guess.
Donut. I know you ate a donut.
Well, yeah, you know that. That's right. So, I think you recognize that the information I gave you previously wasn't sufficient to tell you what I ate today. Even though the resultant of the previous was full. Chicken, full. Chicken, full. Today, full. What did I eat? Chicken? Not necessarily.
You've been more than chicken.
Yes. So now, let's formulate this in a globe claim.
Also could be that what you call chicken and my understanding of chicken are two different things.
That's fine, but we're just using common language. So
Okay.
let's extrapolate this to a globe claim. Okay.
Sure.
If the Earth is a ball, an object in the distance, right, on the surface, will have a hump of Earth curve in between me and it, and I won't be able to see the bottom. Okay, if the Earth was a ball. I go out into the real world and I can't see a bottom of a boat out in the distance. Therefore, the Earth is a ball. Now, does that sound proper?
I'm going to have to ask you to say it one more time.
Okay, if the Earth was a ball,
Mm-hmm.
things in the distance, you wouldn't be able to see the bottom because of the hump of Earth curve. So let's make it simple. If the Earth was a ball, things would disappear from the bottom, far away. I go out into the real world. I look out and I can't see the bottom of the boat. Therefore, the Earth is a ball. Now, is that proper reasoning?
There could be other variables at play.
Correct. So the same with the chicken. It's not a contingent necessity in that argument string that the Earth is therefore a ball. It could be. That's all you can get. So if I tell you I'm full, I could have had chicken, but I didn't necessarily have chicken. Now, I will submit to you, my friend, that the majority of globe arguments require this formal structure known as affirming the consequent, formal logical fallacy. Could be a ball, is not necessarily a ball. Other claims of the globe require presuppositional reasoning. Okay? So where the claim, we already know the Earth is a ball, is put at the beginning, and then something that requires the Earth to be a ball is then said, and then the end conclusion is therefore the Earth is a ball. However, the presupposition wasn't proven in the first instance. A majority of Now, I will submit to you, my friend, that the majority of globe arguments require this formal structure known as affirming the consequent, formal logical fallacy. Could be a ball, is not necessarily a ball. Other claims of the globe require presuppositional reasoning. Okay? So where the claim, we already know the Earth is a ball, is put at the beginning, and then something that requires the Earth to be a ball is then said, and then the end conclusion is therefore the Earth is a ball. However, the presupposition wasn't proven in the first instance. A majority of globe evidence also falls in that category. There's very few direct evidences or proofs that are even in principle direct when it comes to the globe. In fact, I can only think of two. Out of all the alleged evidences, there's only two that don't require you to assume the Earth is a ball in order for the conclusion to carry. Those two pieces of evidence are alleged pictures and eyewitness anecdotes, not testimony. I almost said testimony, foolishly, because somebody telling you something isn't testimony. It's an anecdote. Somebody swearing on the Bible in court under penalty of perjury, that's testimony.
Sure.
So we have, for the grand total of proofs that aren't logically fallacious on their face, for the globe, the anecdotal stories of people and alleged pictures. That's it.
And that's only two alleged pictures. One is the pale blue dot, and the other one, forget what they called that one.
Earthrise. And no, there's three. So there's Earthrise, the pale blue dot,
Blue
and then the
marble.
other one was the one. Yeah, the blue marble.
Yeah, but
The
we
real
know the
blue marble.
Yeah, we know the blue marble, and they admit was taken from low altitude around the Earth. It wasn't taken beyond low Earth orbit.
Right. He did admit that. So it's Photoshop, but it
Right.
has
So
to.
let's
Yeah.
let's talk about those two images. Now, the reason why we only said there's three when you think there's hundreds is because the majority of those quote unquote hundreds are claimed by the sources to be composites, not photographs. They're just images. They're not claimed to be a shot of the Earth from a specific location with a specific camera and frame. There's only like three of those. So let's talk about, since we just talked about the lowest one, let's talk about the middle one, the one on Earth. Sorry, the one on the moon. Okay, let me put it to you this way. Who can validate that that picture is true? The answer is nobody. Right? Zero people. The only validation is the anecdotal accompaniment by the alleged people who were there as eyewitnesses. So you're basically just gambling that they're telling the truth. That's up to you, whether you want to put faith in those men who look like somebody killed their mom when they came back from the mission. Oh, wait a minute. Somebody did kill one of their moms. Sorry, too soon? So, that picture's scandalous. Now let's talk
They'll
about
just say that they saw aliens or something. Oh.
Yeah. Let's talk about the pale blue dot. The pale blue dot was allegedly, I think, taken by Voyager, which was supposedly this long-range satellite that's being shot out into space, right? And it took a picture of Earth as it started to leave or something. Okay, look at that photo, bro. Pull it up and look at it. It looks like a photo that a kid took with your camera on vacation by throwing it out the window against a wall. It's just a blurry streaks with a dot on it. There is no way to validate what you're even looking at. An absolute farce to use that as evidence of anything. So, we have a bunch of shoddy characters saying they went to the moon. They can't even remember whether they saw stars or not. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
A photo that can't be validated in any way, shape, or form. Another photo, which looks like somebody's used toilet paper. Can't even tell what's on it. So this is the grand body of evidence, first order evidence of the globe. So what am I supposed to do with that? Believe it? Take it on faith? Trust that the United States government would never lie to me?
And it would never hold up in a court of law. Guarantee that.
Hey, the
Or should
government
I
loves
trust-
you.
Yeah. Or should I trust Hubble, who hated the idea of God being in control so much that he completely skewed his entire interpretation of the lights in the sky? Or any of these other guys who had shoddy motives and clear biases that they admitted to? Should I believe them? Hey, this is my submission to you, my friend, is that the globe is the extraordinary claim, contrary to common experience, that requires extravagant explanations and stories with presuppositions and logical fallacies throughout to sustain itself. It's a web of lies, interconnected and interwoven through the centuries.
Mm-hmm.
Perpetrated, my friend, upon us when we were the most vulnerable in our youth, when our brains and our minds and our spirits were in their formative years, trying to reach out to our parents and loved ones. Where do I live? Who am I? And they said, we don't know. We'll let the government tell you. We'll let the scientific, allegedly scientific establishment tell you. We'll let the education system tell you who you are. And let me tell you what they told your children. In the words of Carl Sagan, right? Very famous astro guy. You're nothing. You're not special. You're an insignificant speck on a pale blue dot in an insignificant corner of an ever-expanding nothingness. That's what you are. God forbid they tell you the truth, that you are specifically created and placed in the center of creation, the apple of God's eye, the pinnacle, the reason. You're not insignificant. This is your home, specifically designed for you. Self-evidently, by the way. But rather than face that truth, these men conspired against humanity to dupe them down their fantasy that there is no God to answer to. Because they're scared to death of what that means for them.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that answers the other question that you might ask, which is, why would they lie? Why would they lie about the shape of the earth?
Why would they lie? Why would they lie? We wouldn't normally
Well, to
bring this
hide
up to
things.
people because we don't really
benefit.
have to. Just saying.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. And I think the answer to that question is simply put, to benefit, right? And why do people lie in general? And it's either to hide something for their own benefit, or
Oh, you're a smart cookie.
yeah,
To exploit.
yeah, take
Well, that's
I
advantage
mean,
of.
the same
it's really
category.
not even, it doesn't even have to be that deep now. I mean, maybe when it was initially perpetrated, but at this point, most people just believe the lie.
Yeah, so you're right. Most people lie to gain or avoid consequences. They either gain benefit or avoid consequences.
Yep.
And there's several thousand years, well, 100 years into deep in the lie to really, as any liar, it's just gonna keep
doubling down
going till they get caught. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm with you on that. I think that's a pattern that's observable in society, right? It's very rare to find people
Yeah,
that.
and I know that as a formal professional liar.
What is that? Sales or attorney?
No, hey, listen, he's not allowed to talk about. Look, he's not allowed to
Oh.
talk about his period with the Biden campaign.
Okay.
Oh, an NDA.
So as I was when I originally started talking, we were talking about observing planets and objects in the sky through a telescope. I said something that I thought would trigger a bunch of people, but I didn't hear anything. So the moon, right? It doesn't rotate, or at least it does. Like if you're a glober, is that the right term? If I'm not
Yep.
okay. If I'm a
There's
glober,
no derogatory
God,
terms. That's the least
please don't
derogatory.
be an anti-flat earther. Okay.
okay. So if I'm one of those, and I believe that this thing does rotate, but it rotates perfectly with the orbit of the Earth. I think that's oddly suspicious. Now
No, it's
just
not.
the like the probabilities of the Goldilocks condition, the distance from the sun, that's exactly the diameter of the moon as well, and the moon rotating at the perfect fucking rotation, so
Right.
we see just one face. It's just so crazily impossible. Like in probability terms, it's just crazy.
Yep. So
Have good questions.
yeah, I guess my thought around that is, I mean, it could be a spherical object, right? Or it could be a flat object. It could be an illusion. There's a lot of things it could be. And
Let me stop you there. You can keep going because there's a lot of theories about what the moon is, what's
sure.
behind the dome. It's nice to think about that and find out. Perhaps if you find out, you can you can tell us. But
Mhm.
I wouldn't invoke a dome. I would just say container. But
yeah,
we can't verify what the moon is. So
yes,
yeah,
exactly.
but
Yeah.
it's not an
No, that's
We
illusion.
don't
fair.
We
know.
all experience the moon. You know, it does what its thing. It's up there.
The
Sorry, go ahead.
the interesting thing to me is whatever it is, it's well thought out. um because if it were a flat surface, I'm not saying that it is or it isn't, but in order for it to be a flat surface, there would be certain properties that it just couldn't
But
follow,
why
right?
does the
So
moon have to be flat if the Earth is flat?
right, it doesn't. And it could be spherical, it could be an illusion, a projection, it could be all sorts of things. But
Right. So
Yeah.
if it, I'll submit to you, my friend, that if you put it into the category of optical effects, right,
mhm.
and you can't validate the medium between it and us, then you've basically opened it up to be able to do anything. So then when you go down the track of say, oh, well, it should look this way if the Earth was flat or that way if the Earth was flat, you're then going back to the assumptions of absolute free space between us and the moon, no optical effects, and all these other types of things. So you got to be careful that you don't mix your categories there.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't apply, you can't say, oh, how does, like I said before, you can't say if the Earth is flat, then how do all the globe explanations work in the flat world? It's like, no, they don't work. That's the point.
Right.
So the moon is a mystery, and you're right that it does have a purpose. Right? The sky appears to us as a sign system. In fact, that's the way the majority of antiquity has interpreted it, as signs
Calendar.
for days and times and seasons and years and chicks freaking cycles and when you should be banging if you want to
Yes.
get a chick pregnant and all these things.
Okay,
Right?
and the moon is mysterious like a woman is mysterious to a man. Okay. And sometimes even women are mysterious. Okay.
But women
That's
understand
why,
women and they hate each other.
well,
Right.
they've always attributed the moon to being like women or a woman and the sun being like a
Yeah,
man.
well, well, if you
Mysterious
actually
moon.
Sage, one interesting data about the moon and the sun, they have different light spectrum and effects.
Mhm.
Actually, sunlight affects differently physical objects than the moon. You should check it out. I'm not gonna ramble about it, but it supposedly makes things colder instead of hotter and putrefy instead of having antibacterial properties as the sun. And one feeds fire and the other kind of dampens fire.
Mm-hmm.
If it was reflection of the sunlight, it would have properties at least at lower percentages of the sunlight, but it doesn't. So maybe it's self-illuminating. Who knows?
Right.
It's almost like the sun gives energy and the moon takes energy.
Like the feminine and masculine principles and all that stuff, positive and negative.
You know,
It
really,
makes
the
sense.
strange, the strangest thing about the moon is that no matter where you are on the Earth, you see the exact same face. So I'm in South America. I'm assuming you're in, sorry, South Africa. I'm assuming you're in North America. So when I see the moon on in the west, right, you see the moon in the east, but we see the exact same face.
Well, and that's where I was kind of going with the conversation originally.
One's
It's
6 and one's a 9. Is that what you were going to? Sorry, let me not. Go ahead.
So there's this concept called liberation, right? Here, let me see if I can share this image. Can I just upload an image? Is that allowed?
Yes, but you need the perms.
Okay.
But I think you're invested enough to not be playing a long troll just to porn bomb us. So I'll give you the perms.
Trying to share the link before, and that didn't work out too well. It didn't actually show anything.
You
Well,
just gave him an
that's
idea.
that's because our silver members are slacking. Because what they're supposed to do, one of their duties, is to see that people are trying to do that, vet the link, and if it's good, then repost it on their behalf using the reply function.
Could I just do I can do the link. I mean,
I don't know how to do that.
Well, don't worry. I'll give you the role here shortly.
Well, I'm silver, but I don't know how to do the link thing.
But this basically states that if you're in two different parts of the Earth, you should see a slightly different moon. It's very subtle.
You don't.
But that's
never
right. And I haven't personally observed that myself. But it's just a concept that I'm familiar with, and so I wanted to bring that up and talk with you guys about it to see if testing has been done on that or what your guys' thoughts are around that. But before I get into that, there was one other thing I wanted to mention, and that was just Occam's razor. I'm sure you're familiar with that term.
Familiar. Oh, so familiar. Yes, go ahead.
Okay. No, I don't subscribe to it as a rule, because I do think there's danger in just subscribing wholeheartedly to one methodology that isn't the scientific method. But I do believe it's a good way to establish a hypothesis, and otherwise we could be creating hypotheses all day long, every day. And so it's like, hey, let's get to the most simplest explanation, test that theory out, and then go from there.
Oh, absolutely. So let's be clear. The simplest explanation to the fact that we experience water and the Earth as a flat stationary plane is that it's a flat stationary plane.
Is that Occam's razor?
Yeah, Occam's razor is what's the simplest explanation?
Yeah, you should look at
No, that's not it. That is not it, friend.
That's not it. Yeah. Okay.
It is the explanation that requires the least amount of assumptions.
Right.
It has been bastardized into the simplest explanation.
Yeah, I'm
Now,
sorry.
why are those two things so different? I'll tell you why. Because when you make an assumption and you need that to carry your conclusion, right? You need to prove the assumption in order for the conclusion to be proven true. Otherwise, you just have a long line of fallacious reasoning and a conclusion. So, think about it. The Earth is experienced as a flat, stationary plane. How many assumptions do I need for that? 0.
Right.
So it is the simplest explanation. It's experienced that way because it is that way.
Yeah, yeah, and
All
requires the fewest
flat-
amount of assumptions. I totally agree.
Yeah, what's fake actually put in the live stream voice text is what you were talking about, but a better imagery of it than what you were trying to show us. So if you look at it, even better.
Yeah, I like that actually a lot. That's exactly what I was talking about.
So what did you call it? Libration?
I believe so. I think it's
Okay,
like
well, you know that the moon is actually Luna, right?
Right.
And people who are crazy were called lunatics because they would obsess about the moon. And when the moon could be full, they'd get nuts. And a lot of times it was because they were drinking libations, which causes them to gyrate in the form of libations, which gives you the explanations of the globes, which I gave the assassination.
Straight fire, what?
You're so silly.
How did you come up with this in 3 milliseconds?
I'm from the future, so I had like 3 days to figure it out.
Dude, I was joking about joining your sect, but I'm all in. Whatever you're doing, making, just consider me on board, man. I will polish your shoes or whatever.
What if I buy shoes from a Polish shoemaker and you polish my Polish?
I need to polish my polish too, so I used to know some polish.
Oh gosh. There's a lady present.
So what you're trying to say is that when a lady's present, she has to have a dirty mind?
No comment.
Moonstruck. I like it. Well, it's getting late for me, but I appreciate the conversation and meeting all you guys. It's been really good.
Likewise.
Yo, it was a pleasure, and have a good life, man.
It was a rocky start, but we're glad you stuck in
Yeah.
there.
That's why it was so good, because it turned around.
I like it.
Yeah, I agree. It was great.
Take care,
All right.
man.
Take care, Al.
You too, buddy.
What is your profession?
See, old friend, I brought more soldiers than you did.